So after chapter 159 of One Punch Man, I felt like it was kind of necessary again to talk about Garou and just what is happening to Garou currently in the manga, because some of you might have, kind of figured out this detail and some of you might have not. And I didn't really talk about it in my last video because I don't normally go into too much detail in my breakdowns. I normally try to break them up into like maybe one or two videos after the breakdown, but I'm going to be trying to explain what I think might be happening to Garou in this video because, if you guys haven't noticed, Garou may be literally in the middle of awakening as we know it in the One Punch Man series. But of course, before we get into all of that good stuff, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, because if you haven't already, then, I don't know what you're doing, because if you've ever watched a One Punch Man video in your life, then, I'm guessing you may have seen one of my videos, but if you haven't, then, today's your lucky day, because I post quite a lot of One Punch Man content, and if you like that stuff, then, this place is like heaven for you. But apart from that, let's just get into the video, because Garou right now is probably one of the most interesting characters to talk about in One Punch Man, or maybe even in manga currently as we know it. But of course, let's just get into it. Now, as we all know, in the last chapter, it was pretty short. It was only 25 pages, but in the last chapter we saw that it was pretty much the conclusion of Garou versus Sage Centipede, which I'm pretty sure everybody was expecting, because that fight was going on a lot longer than I'm sure everybody expected it was going to go on for. But after this fight was completed, we saw that Garou at the end has said his fist has now been basically perfected, and we saw that Garou's fists were actually like, it was kind of like cracking off, and it had like some aura around it. And I kind of guessed that this could mean that, I guess, Garou's fists are partially awakened. Like, the only parts of Garou currently that is awakened are just his fists, meaning that he's kind of, I guess you could say, maybe 10% fully awakened, you could say. Because right now he still has like most of his shell on his body, and he just needs that one last push to finally awaken into his final form. And I'm pretty sure, as I said before in previous videos, this is just my theory, but I'm pretty sure that Saitama is going to be the one to awaken Garou, and maybe just kind of one punch him with full killing intent, and Garou comes back up and is finally awakened and shocks Saitama, because Saitama doesn't normally, I guess, see this happen, especially when he performs a killing intent punch, and that is when awaken Garou versus Saitama will fully commence. But of course, that's just my theory. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to happen. But back to what I was saying about Garou. Now, Garou with his new fist form, or his partially awakened form, you could say. I know a lot of people already think Garou is partially awakened, and you are correct, but what I'm trying to say is he is partially awakened into fully awakening. It's really weird to say, but I hope that does make sense. But Garou is pretty much in the form before his fully awakened form, and he just needs that one last push, and I guess Sage Centipede has done that for him to an extent, just only for his fist, I could say, because we see that Garou's fists were like basically glowing with some sort of aura in the last chapter, after basically slicing Sage Centipede in half, which by the way was one of the coolest things Garou has done in the series, hands down. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Garou right now is just partially awakened, and his power in his fists are on a completely different level than what we've known up until now. And I'm pretty sure that's like the strongest Garou's fists are going to get in the series, which I'm pretty sure Garou right now, in terms of like proper scaling terms, like in like power level terms and proper power level terms, I would say he's probably maybe at the lowest, probably like island level, or at the lowest he'll probably be like country level, or at the highest maybe continental. I'm not too sure. But once Garou gets to like his awakened form, I'm sure he would be at least multi-continental. I mean, his attack power would be somewhere around like continental, because he was able to slice Sage Centipede in half, and Sage Centipede looks like he could probably take out like a continent if he really wanted to, because we saw just how long he was and just how much power he had behind all of his attacks. Sage Centipede was literally able to reach to outer space. So I mean, in terms of just how devastating Sage Centipede is, I mean, he is pretty devastating if you ask me. But of course, Garou was able to pretty much like mid-diff him. So, you know, that kind of confirms that Garou would probably be around continental level at this point. And I guess at the lowest, he'll be like island or country level. But if I was to like scale him against, I guess, another character, and I'm probably gonna make like a separate video for this, but let's just kind of like briefly kind of go over it just for this, you know, just for the sake of this video. So I kind of scale Garou right now to somewhere around release Boros. I personally think he's probably above him at this point, but he's kind of like in the middle of released Boros and like meteoric burst Boros. I don't think he's meteoric burst just yet. I don't think he's anywhere close to meteoric burst. He's just in the middle of, I guess, released Boros and meteoric Boros. I feel like, you know, I'm gonna make a separate video for this, but you know, the fight with released Boros and Garou might be not as close as many people think, but at the same time there are many factors that could make the fight a lot closer, but I'll get into that in the next video I'm gonna make. But anyway, moving on, I guess you could say Garou currently is probably around like I would say maybe above dragon 40%, 50%. He's definitely got higher in terms of how strong I think he is in terms of like his above dragon level, and I don't think he's any more like before this. I thought Garou was maybe 30%, maybe 35, maybe 40%, but now I think he's, you know, more comfortably like 45, maybe 50% above dragon, because the feat that he's shown in the last chapter was definitely something to it was not something that we've seen that, you know, any old character can do. I'm pretty sure like no S-class hero could do that apart from like maybe Tatsumaki. Not even Flashy Flash, no Way Bang, no Chance Atomic Samurai. Only Tatsumaki and Blast could probably, you know, perform a feat like that. So the fact that Garou has entered that, you know, sphere of strength just shows that he's on a completely different level to what we've known before, because, you know, Garou was kind of like not on the same level as Platinum S, but was exchanging blows with Platinum S and Flashy Flash, so he wasn't really on that Tatsumaki level of strength. But I feel like now he's finally entered that sphere of strength, in my opinion, and Garou from here is just gonna keep getting stronger and stronger. And I'm not too sure how like one is going to approach Garou's manga awakening, but I'm sure it's going to be pretty interesting, because maybe that we're going to see Garou awaken like in different parts of his body. Like, for example, we've seen him awaken in his fist. We might see later he might awaken in his legs, or, you know, his chest, or something like that. But hopefully we will probably get awakened Garou in the next maybe 2-3 chapters, I'm hoping, assuming we don't, you know, switch to Psychos and Fubuki, which I'm sure will happen pretty soon. But I wouldn't worry too much, because we are pretty much like Saitama versus Awakened Garou is imminent at this point. Like, we literally can't get any closer. It's gonna happen in the next 5 or so chapters, in my opinion. But apart from that, that's pretty much all I have to say about Garou in this video. If you like this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, because yeah, I post a lot of One Punch Man content. But apart from that, I will see you in my next video.